Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the latest episode of FPL Don't Panic. Currently back home in New Zealand. Beautiful weather. It's nice to be home. Missing Ireland already, though. Had a really good time there between England and Ireland. We reach another milestone this week, as in game week 10 is almost but not quite finished. I'll give you an update on that later. So I thought what I'd do in this video, and I am very aware that at the moment I'm mostly rambling to myself. I do have a couple of followers there, which is nice. So if anyone is actually looking at this, thank you so much. Appreciate your subscription. But as it stands at the moment, I'm very much doing these videos as a way to keep me disciplined, and it's kind of working. I've gone off course a few times. But as I've stated in most videos, just to reiterate, this is my first time playing fantasy. Let's say seriously. Played it first time 3 years ago. Didn't really pay much attention to it. I just threw a team and let it roll, and took loads of hits. Was just having fun with it, to be honest with you, but without really taking it in any way too seriously. Last year I was pretty much doing the same thing up until I'd say about game week 15, when I had a little bit of an epiphany, and I started then to actually use, I guess, some of the skills I picked up from a job. I'm not an analyst, but I worked for an analyst company for the best part of 12, 13 years, doing a little bit more with data, patterns, averages, things like that. And started paying a bit more attention. We're still taking huge amounts of hits, still having fun with it, but doing a bit more experimenting with it. And I had a few sort of moments of epiphany throughout that. I thought, I think if I focused on this, I could get myself a top 100k finish. And certainly the second half of last season, I went extremely well in second chance, when I was actually quite focused. And I was still taking quite a few hits because I was still experimenting with some things around averages and patterns and etc., but also obviously the good old eye test. So this year I thought I would actually take it much more seriously, but because I am relatively, I wouldn't say I'm disciplined, I'd say I'm impatient. Same thing, impatient, ill-disciplined. I thought I'd actually start recording my progress, set out some objectives, and see if I could achieve the following, just basically a top 100k finish, using a few different methodologies and ideas. So I'm going to do a book review of the first 10 game weeks. So to just run through key objectives is we're aiming at a top 100k finish this year, and I'm trying to target an average of 70 points per game week. So one or two people have actually asked me, why 70 points? Well, the reason for that is you'll find that over the last, going back, so I look back through the history of FPL, 70 would damn near win you the thing for quite a few years. I think it was about 73 was the average last year. So if I'm aiming for that, even if I don't achieve it, we should be getting into that top 100k if I'm trying to build my methodology towards achieving that 70 point per week average. There's not a chance in hell I'm going to win it. Certainly not in my position at the moment. And I never thought it would anyways, even if it was going very well. It's 10.5 million people. But not tracking too badly. I've kind of almost but not quite achieved some of the objectives I was trying to achieve. So let's just talk about very quickly, because I have reviewed the first 5 game weeks, because I've broken the season up into blocks of roughly 5, where I sort of put in place different strategies. The first 5 game weeks was very much about trying to hit that 70 average. Things tend to kick off with a hiss and roar. I did let's just run through very quickly through the points in the first 5 game weeks, which went reasonably well. We had an 83, a 75, a 77, a 45, and a 68. That actually put me on pretty much bang on 70, and that also helped me achieve my first objective, which was to stay in the top 1 million in those first 5 game weeks. So that I'm basically in touch, and it was such a volatile start to the season, especially with the whole Haaland Salah thing. Go Haaland, go Salah, go both, etc. So numbers were all over the place with a lot of players. The range of, I kicked off at 185, but at one point I was down to, I think, 1 million or 2 million. By the end of the 5 game weeks, though, I pretty much was bang on my 70 point average, and was inside the the top 1 million. So that was great. Now, second half of the next 5 game weeks, I had adopted a strategy. The next part of the strategy was, so first 5 game weeks was about collecting data, staying in touch, and sometimes I had Haaland, Salah, sometimes I had Salah, sometimes I had Haaland. Somehow I managed to stay where I wanted to. The second half was then to actually go, and it seemed like a good idea at the time, but oh my God, the last 5 game weeks have been horrendous. If we sort of just sort of briefly going through it, so I was going with my strategy. I do have a table that I use to sort of calculate numbers. I did my calculations from those first 5 game weeks, and I was pretty confident I was going to stay well on track based on those numbers. We went with the Haaland draft. I actually wildcarded him 4. We went with the Haaland draft. Haaland's numbers were outstanding, obviously. I had good players, etc. I had great Arsenal defence, and all the numbers showed me I should stay pretty much on track with the 70. Well, I couldn't have been more wrong on that. My average has dropped down. Currently, I think I'm sitting at about a 61 average. But I'm not the only one that's been suffering. Let's see. So my numbers were game week 6, 42, game week 7, 49, game week 8, 28, game week 9, bit of a recovery. And this is where I actually did do a reset. I actually did break one of my unwritten rules unless I could justify it, where I took a hit, and that actually worked for me. Not going to go through that. You can look at that in the previous videos. I got to 81, and we're currently in game week 10. We will review it because I actually took 2 hits. But I am currently on 49 points, and I do have 2 players to come, which is Wizard and Mbemo. So I think we'll hopefully add to that. I'm currently on a nice healthy green arrow. I am just outside the top 1 million. I think I should get a green arrow come up in May tomorrow, but there are a few players that could hurt me. There's a couple of players that could potentially hurt me, but we'll see. We'll update on that maybe later in the week. But have chance of getting in the top 1 million, which would be one of the objectives. But I'm going to be, unless there's a minor miracle tomorrow of gigantic proportions, there is not a chance in hell I am going to get back to a 70-point average. But as I say, so my new objective as I go forward will be to actually try and hit a 71-point average. Over the course of the season, that will get me back to a 70-point average. Now, again, I don't actually really think I am going to achieve that, but the numbers I build are actually geared towards trying to achieve that. So aim high. If you come in lower, still hopefully we'll get a good result. So let's just have a little bit of a review. So, okay, 10 game weeks. I'm just outside the top 1 million. Might be there by the finish of game week 10. Not unhappy with that, particularly because this season is so volatile. So I think in previous seasons, they've been just outside the 1 million after 10 game weeks. I think it'd be well off the pace. Well off the pace. But as I say, there's this incredible volatility. The Fantasy Premier League have done an amazing job this year with the pricing. Last year was almost too easy. You could literally have everyone about this. It was about 15 game week last year, where I actually realized I had a decent sized budget. And I remember, I think it might have been FPL Harry said no one can have all these players, and I think, can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was been like Trent, Salah, Saka, Son. And I actually started playing, well, could you actually have them all? And I came up with a team where I did have them all. And I also, but they were cheaper obviously then, and I just got on the back of the Gordon and Palmer before everyone else was really onto them fully. And I had a cheap rotating defensive 4.5 midfielders that was actually serving me very, very well. I had like Branthwaite and the likes, and they just kept coming in every other week with 7, 8, 10s and more sometime. And I was flying along. And then actually after 5 game weeks, I took about game week 2021. I thought, oh, can I do it again? I actually broke up my team and thought, can I do it again? And I actually did. So I don't think that's going to be as easy to do this year with the pricing, and that's why it's so volatile. So even though I'm just outside the top 1 million, I'm only 30 or 40 points, I think, outside that top 100k. And I played a couple of mini leagues, and I was 30 or 40 points off the off the top of those just a couple of weeks ago. But even though the last 2 game weeks, well, I had an 81 last week, and currently on 49. I've pretty much run down the leaders in both of those already, just in 2 game weeks. So really, I'm not unhappy with where I am. We've just got to get some level of consistency into the numbers. So let's just have a look. We'll talk about the current game week and the transfers that I did make, and the hits I took, and whether the hits worked or not. So when I did my numbers last week, numbers showed me I should hit 70, but I did note that most of my players want away fixtures. So I actually took 10 points off that because there are between home and away, there is a difference. Players at home do, on average, tend to do better. So I actually put a prediction of 60 points. I'm currently sitting on 49, but I do have 2 players to come. I don't think I'm going to be too far off of that when all things come together at the end of the last match tomorrow. But let's run through the players. Henderson too, yeah, not so great. Let's say he's done better over the last 5 or 6 game weeks, as I said. I do think it's going to be time for him to go, and I've got some thoughts around that. Sells, but I've actually quite like Sanchez. Don't like to waste a keeper transfer, but we'll have a look at. Definitely got my eye on Sanchez. Got a fixture turn 12. There's a nice sea of green fixtures. He makes lots of saves. Chelsea are capable of keeping a clean sheet or 2. So I think there may be a move there eventually. Guardiola came in with a 7. Loving life with Guardiola. Brought him in a couple of game weeks ago. He did so well for me at the back end of last year. I got him early then. Clean sheet's not coming for City, but if he keeps grabbing a goal here and a not clean sheet there, he is going nowhere. Gabriel, just the 1. Where has my Arsenal defence gone? Lewis, just the 1. I knew he was a rotation risk. Never trust Pep. So, a bunch of players came back from injury that were not apparently coming back from injury this week, and he did say he wanted to give Lewis a rest. So he came on for the 1-pointer. Is what it is. We knew he was a rotation risk, and we were taking our chances with I got him at 4.5, but a 4.7 now. I think 4.7, 4.8. Man City's defender seemed like a good idea at the time. Still might be a good idea, but he may be one that I move out. I think there may be better 4.5 million options around, especially as I'm looking to strengthen my bench going forward and have good rotation options. Johnson, yeah. Came in. That was fantastic that he came in with the 8-pointer. Mo Salah, who I brought in, got the captain's armband on him. Obviously, this is now we're going without Haaland, and he came in, got a return. Would have been nice to have seen a bit more. He was actually quiet during the game, but Salah always finds a way. 18 points, loving it. Palmer, yeah, just a 3-pointer this week. To be honest with you, I was happy enough with that. I'm a Man United supporter. Thought he might have snicked up the win this morning, and I say this morning because I'm in New Zealand. I was up at 5 a.m. watching that. And it's not. It doesn't feel like the one that got away. I don't really had too many clear-cut opportunities in that. It was a pretty crappy game. In truth, a few good moments in it, but there wasn't a lot of quality out there between 2 teams that you think have got so much quality. And Boomer's took to play yet. Let's hope for some good things tomorrow. I think it's about 40% owned. I don't think it'll do much to my rank other than protect it, but hopefully if he does have a haul, it'll get him a few more places. Saka, and we'll talk about my hits and how that's all worked out. Saka just came in with the 2. So if you understand, Salah actually came in for Semenyo, and Saka came in for Rodgers. So you can already see where this is going. Wizard to play tomorrow. Now I don't think he's too highly owned at all. I think he's under 10% still, and maybe be a lot lower than that. Now if he could get me a few, that could be the one that helps sneak me just inside. Because I'm only a few points outside the top 1 million. That would be a joy, an absolute joy. And Cunha with the 6, who I bought when I transferred Haaland to free up the cash. So it's currently got me on 49. understanding, say, 2 more players to come. We'll see how that goes. We'll update later in the week. Understanding that there's a -8 on that. But it's got me on that green arrow. It's got me on a green arrow. And I think given the trauma of the last 4 or 5 game weeks, seriously, any sort of a green arrow this week would have been good. So hopefully we can hang on to that and maybe even rise a few more places. So it's not actually been a disaster of a game week. I've obviously not hit the 70. I didn't actually expect to. I figured this team was going to hit about 60, and it's going to be pretty close to that. On the bench, then we had Konza, João Pedro, and Greaves all striking up zeros. Konza is one that I may look to transfer out soon. João Pedro, just keeping an eye on to see what happens with him. He's been sitting on my bench for weeks and weeks. He had the injury, obviously. And Greaves, as we'll talk about shortly, is already gone. I want bench depth. This is what we'll talk about a little later on with the strategy for games 11 to 15, and maybe a little bit further than that, given some of the fixtures that are coming up. So overall, not too unhappy as we stand at the moment, but we will talk about the hits. I do have this unwritten rule: take no hits unless I can fully justify them. Now, I'm not sure how fully I justified the 2 hits that I took, but did they work out? Oh, well, the reason was obviously as it got to game week 9 and Haaland blanks and just seeing my rank just plummeting, had to take some action. So I broke away from the plan, basically took these hits this game week, even though this should have been always captain Haaland weekend. I'm glad I did. It's actually, let's talk about how the hits went. So first one out. So did the hits well? Haaland to Cunha. Haaland got 4. Cunha got 6. So that's okay, because this was an enabler to bring in Salah, but also understanding that I would have captained Haaland, so he would have had 8 points. So technically, he would have outscored Cunha. Semenyo. Oh, yeah, that one hurt a little bit. However, Semenyo was changed to Salah. Semenyo got 10, and the captain's armband was on Salah, because I would have never captained Semenyo. So it's 18. So that on that, if I had stopped there, it would have been a joy, because that would have meant the Haaland Salah duo 18, and the Cunha, Haaland Semenyo and the Cunha Salah combo 24. So yeah, that would have been plus 6 points, and it would have set me up for what I want to do for the next 5 game weeks. Unfortunately, in a burst of enthusiasm, I decided, right, because it went in my strategy, I thought, you know what, I can see a little bit of a template starting to develop with teams looking to have 3, maybe even 4 premiums. And part of my strategy was always to, but in the game week 10 going forward, get as many premiums in as possible, and because I've got a reasonably healthy bank balance. So I thought, you know what, I'll take a gamble here, and took Rodgers out and brought Saka in. So that means that Rodgers, he outscored Salah. He got his 9, Rodgers and Saka, and Saka just came in with the 2, which gives a balance of Haaland, Semenyo, Rodgers 27, Cunha, Salah, Saka 26. And yeah, that has cost me a few points. But you know what? I'm not unhappy. I have now, as we hit game week 11, I actually do now have the structure that I want in place. I've got it in a little bit earlier than most, not all. I think there's a few definitely hitting in a not dissimilar direction with their team structure going forward. But I'm happy. I've got to where I want for the next 5 games. I've just got it a little bit early, and I'm starting to move up the ladder again. I've sort of seemed to have steadied the ship last game week or 2. With I've taken 3 hits in the last 2 game weeks, but it's the one in game week 9. Steady the ship. I got some good returns out of that, because that's when I brought in Gavardio, And this week, yeah, I'm certainly well above the average score across the whole competition as it stands at the moment for the week. And it does look like I get a reasonably solid green arrow, and may even just tip into the 1 million. And my team is set up as I wanted going forward for the next five games. So a little bit about the 11 to 15 strategy. Okay, premium heavy. I've already mentioned that. Now, at the moment, let's actually have a look at my team. And I have already made a transfer. So we'll talk about that. It's an aggressive strategy. My key objective, want to see if I can get towards a 71 point average across the next 5 game weeks. For the next 5 game weeks, start clawing back. But you never know. Maybe I might get a haul somewhere. We might really reduce that number from my average pretty quickly. But premium heavy. At the moment, it depends on what you classify as a premium, but clearly Salah. Oh, and this is the first time I've looked at this since this morning. There is a yellow flag on Palmer. Oh, trouble at Mill. Okay, let's see how that updates. But pretending there's no yellow flag there, Palmer won't be playing in Europe during the week. Let's see. Anyway, Salah, Palmer, and Saka. So that's my three absolute premiums. I've got Gavardiol. I would start to classify him as a premium as far as defence goes. Certainly, absolutely, in his numbers and his expensive 6. So I'd certainly classify him in that premium bracket. I do have Gabriel still, although I am thinking I haven't quite decided who's going to be on my bench for the next week. But again, I'd certainly classify him in the premium defender bracket. So you could say effectively that I've got 5 premiums. So premium heavy, first thing, and those become a stalwarts. Now, doesn't mean they don't necessarily get transferred out. I mean, if they really fall off the rails, a la Haaland, they have to be moved on. But they're premiums for a reason. They bring in the numbers. They're top of the charts. They cost a lot of money, and they tend to be fairly consistent. On other players, so we're talking, the other players that are in my team. We're going to target fixtures. An example of that is I was very tempted. I have gone a different direction. But I was very tempted. For example, Man United have got 2 fixtures coming up. I think it's against Leicester, and Ipswich. Would that be worth, taking Johnson out and bringing in Garnacho, target those 2 fixtures? I won't be doing that, by the way, because I've got Johnson and he is at home to Ipswich and he's ticking along nicely. But it will be about targeting little fixture runs quickly. I'm not going to be looking to roll transfers. I have deepened my bench to cover injuries. We've got the Christmas period coming up. But transfers, if I make them, will be very, very much targeted at finding differentials, finding someone that has got that 1 or 2 good fixtures in a row and bringing them in, etc., etc. We've got a golden rule, so very, very much, because if there is a template developed, we have to find ways, obviously, to climb that ladder. Growing squad value, that'll be part of targeting those differentials. I do monitor price changes, although it's very, very hard to actually know what the hell's going on with price changes. I do want to try and build my bank in the next 5 game weeks. Currently on 102.5 million. Would like to get that up because that will help to increase premiums when I do my next wild card, which should be sometime early after game week 2021. That's a strategy to talk about another day. So increasing squad value. So I really will be looking not just at the differentials, but looking at the price rises and try and get ahead of the curve on some of those. Particularly, as I say, where you can sort of see, can gain 0.1, 0.2. It makes such a big difference, really does, when you're trying to buy players you want. It's so frustrating when you find you're like 0.1 short. So continuing the strategy of trying to grow squad value is proving more difficult this year because I'm not quite sure. Is there someone in an office someone making this shit up? I don't know. Very, very strange. Very strange this year. But generally, I've done a little bit better. First 5 game weeks was terrible for building squad value. Last 5 game weeks actually was a lot better. What else have we got? What are the things? Deep bench. No hits is I'm going to not quite write it down as a rule, but between the bench, hits very rarely work. They always backfire in some way. Even that one that kind of worked out, that's only worked out because it fitted me wanting to have my next 5 game week set up. But generally, honestly, they backfire so many times, as I found out last year. So really have to justify it here. Targeting 71, as I said, to try and claw back on my average. And a big one will be picking captains. I'll talk about my captain choice for this coming game week soon. But captains will be not taken. We've always gone with the Haaland or the Salah. It's going to be a rule of always captain the form player, taking fixtures into account as well. I can already see I've got a dilemma this week on who to captain, but that in itself could become a big differentiator. It could also backfire terribly. But if I'd done that in the last 5 game weeks, even with the Haaland draft, if I'd been captaining my form players, I would easily be 20, 30 points better off comfortably. And I probably would be very close to that top 100k. So we'll see how it works. I'm going to follow it, setting out a strategy and stick to it. Just have the power and stick to it, and then review it at the end and see, well, did that work or not? And if it is actually working, don't change it. I do have some players on my watch list at the moment, just for reference. Some of these are, and this could well be added to. I'm kind of liking Newcastle. I think are actually tightening their ship. Isak is starting to look. Remember, we all had him at the beginning. But Isak looks as though he could be finding a bit of form. Might want to try and get on him early. See if we can capture those points. There have been players which I let run to Wood. Why didn't I get on Wood? 8 Nori. Why didn't I get on 8 Nori early? I knew, and I didn't bring them in. So I need to follow up some of my own rules here about which we'll talk about when I go through my predictions for game week 11. Hall could be good to deepen my bench at 4.3 million. Looks like he's. I had both Hall and Isak right at the beginning of the season, but obviously they weren't working out then. But they're starting to look a bit better now. There's a little bit of run of form coming. Welbeck definitely on my watch list, although I do have just some concerns potentially around rotation. Man United, maybe Delo, Mesraoui, Bruno, Garnacho. New manager coming in, new manager's bounce. Fernandes actually got off the mark, and if Fernandes gets off the mark and he gets his confidence going, he gets on a run. I've seen it before, and maybe this could be the start for him, because he can get periods where he'll do 6-7 game weeks in a row of 10 points per game week. He's very, very much on my monitor now. He could be a transfer in. Canate, wouldn't mind a piece of that Liverpool defence. I'd love to get back to Trent, but he's not going great. He was one of the premiums I was considering. So it could be Canate. Just need to monitor him a bit. I think there may be an injury risk there at the moment. And I mentioned before, Sanchez in goal with a nice fixture run. Don't like goalkeeper transfers, but if I can get on the right one and the right run, it could make a big difference. It could be the difference. Over 5 to 10 game weeks. He will have a nice run coming in a couple of game weeks. Sanchez, and he had a nice run earlier in the season when they had a similar little bunch of green fixtures where he was pulling in the points. I wish I'd brought him in there, but I didn't. Anyway, that's kind of the 11 to 15 strategy. Yeah, let's try and climb up that table. I would like to be inside the top 500k by the time we get to game week 16. Let's see how we go. Anyway, transfer in for this week. I have brought in 8 Nori. I really should have brought him weeks ago. Kind of knew when he started. Wolves are coming through tricky fixtures. Anyway, missed opportunity, but I don't think it's too late. Wolves have got a really nice run of fixtures. I can bench him out on some of the more difficult ones. Southampton at home. I still don't think he's massively highly owned. And Southampton home, too good an opportunity to miss. Will they keep a clean sheet? Probably not. But interesting to note that as badly as Wolves are doing, they will have a lot of difficult fixtures. They've scored, I think they have scored in every game, and he's got a bunch of returns, four returns. Got a lot of easier fixtures coming up. He pretty much plays like a winger. He's in that box, taking shots, setting up. So there's my differentiator for this week. Fingers crossed, but he will also stay in the team for a bit and come in on the right fixtures. The lad's a menace. Currently I do have Lewis and Vardiol making up the defence for the coming game week. That may change. So I've got Gabriel on the bench, and the last time that I removed Gabriel from my squad, he scored 2 in a row. I brought him back in, and then it was blank. Never mind, we'll see. So I don't know whether I want to make that mistake again. And I think Gabriel, I think he does have he's got a thing about scoring against Chelsea. So that's not set in stone. But anyway, at the moment, back 3, Gvardiol, Lewis, and Aït-Nouri. Midfield, Johnson, Ipswich home. Lovely. Salah, Aston Villa home. If Aston Villa defend next week, like they did this morning against... I can't remember the bloody playing now. Spurs. Yes, they defend against Spurs. If they defend like that again, could be happy days for Salah. Palmer, yellow flag. Okay, need to have a look at that. Arsenal home, provided he's fit. Still happy enough with that, but I guess this is the danger of early transfers. But I wouldn't have transferred Palmer anyway. He's here to stay, unless he's broken his leg and he's gone for the season. He ain't going nowhere. No return this morning. But I do trust in Palmer that over a 5-game week period, there could be a couple of holes in there, or so there'll be returns. I'm really confident of that. And Wemmer obviously going nowhere. He is there. His home form is great. Saka. Tricky enough fixture away at Chelsea, but Saka should go all right. Wizard and Cunha, spoken about them already. And we've got Gabriel, Pedro, and Conte on the bench. And I've got Fabianski at home to Everton. He's getting game time. Do I Henderson or Fabianski? Didn't think about that one, actually. Fulham home, Everton home. That might be a change there anyways. But anyway, let's say what I said is the actual team going out. I don't think any changes I make, whether it's Fabianski in goal, or Gabriel coming off, I don't think it makes too much difference to my overall predictions. It's a little bit about how I do my predictions and selections, and how I try and steer it towards seeing if I can get towards that 70 points. I look at the previous 5 game weeks of played matches. If there were injuries or something like that, I will take those blanks out. So, for example, I've got Henderson, who's got a 1-3-3-8-2 for an average of 3. We've got Gvardiol, 9-1-10-9-7 for an average of 7. And if I just go down to where I don't actually have anyone with a blank. But if it was a blank, provided it's only for a couple of game weeks or something like that, basically I take the last 5 game weeks and I overlay the team on each other. So, like I said, Gvardiol, Lewis 2-4-2-6-1, Aït-Nouri 9-9-1-6-1, average of 5, Johnson 11-7-2-1-8, an average of 6. So obviously I want to see their last 5 game weeks played, their average. But I also want to see as a team, if this team was actually out at the same time, what would they have achieved? So 5 game weeks ago, if this was the team that I put out, it would have achieved 91, and that would have been Henderson just a 1, Gvardiol a 9, Lewis a 2, Aït-Nouri a 9, Johnson 11, Salah a 10, Palmer a 25, so that's obviously where it got to a 91, Mbeumo a 9, Saka a 4, Wizard an 8, Cunha a 2, 91 points. These are excluding captaincy. So across the last 5 game weeks that these players have played, we've got a sort of a range which runs from 91, 60, 53, 84, 49. and those are without captaincy. So that would actually give you an average. If you take their average scores, it actually gives you an average of 67, excluding captaincy. So that's not bad. I'd take that any day of the week. Absolutely. So that would be an absolute joy. For my prediction, what I take then is actually the median. So the median here we've got a range of 49 to 91, which actually gives me exactly 70. Now, I do not add a captaincy onto this. What we have to be, like we've just got one here, a curveball, hammer injury. There's a curveball every week. Something always happens. So I exclude captaincy from my predictions. So based on this, based on the median, and based on the average, I'm actually predicting that this team will score 68 points. Now, if all goes swimmingly well and they do that, and I get a great captaincy, well, that is just happy days. Would I be happy if this team got 68? Absolutely. Absolutely. It sort of just starts to get that things back on track. And, see, anything in that 70 range is a good score if you're hitting it reasonably consistently. But the next question does become who to captain. And this is where, with my strategy for the next 5 game weeks, I've just realized how difficult this is going to be. As I say, my rule is captain the form player, taking fixture into account. Well, Johnson's actually not bad. He's averaging 6, and he's got Ipswich at home. So one of the other things, one of my rules, when I bring in a player, we need to see that they have returned in 2 to 3 of the last game weeks. So certainly if they're sort of a key player in the team. So Johnson, for example, is 11, 7, and an 8. He's also got a 2 and a 1 in the last 5 game weeks. And Salah's got a 10, 12, 1, 9. So at the moment, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of my 11 are have 3 returns in 5. And again, and that's why I had to make changes a few weeks ago. It was just going off though, right? That's why I had to take hits. It had gone, it had just fallen away. It had been ticking along nicely for weeks. And then, as I say, it's football. It doesn't matter what the averages say. Football can do crazy, crazy things. Had fallen off, and it did feel like it needed some surgery. I'm glad I did it because I've got most of this team now. It does have that 3 and 5. Now, captain Johnson, Ipswich home. It would be a big differential if he bagged a couple. And what we're trying to do here is match Haaland. That is key in this, and it starts to become a big differential, particularly if the Salahs and things that do get their goal or two. So Johnson, don't know. Salah is actually averaging 7, and he's at home to Villa. Now, he's definitely, I still think I would prefer him over Johnson, just for that consistency, that pedigree, and based on what I saw of that Villa defence this morning, which absolutely crumbled to Spurs. Palmer is my highest averaging player at 9. And Arsenal home. It's Palmer, you just don't know, do you? And Arsenal not looking fantastic at the moment. Still think I slightly favour Salah, but now the one, and I wish I'd done it. I damn near broke my rule of always captain Haaland a couple of game weeks ago, and I damn near put the armband on Embremo, and of course he got his brace. He's averaging now for his, because I don't know today's score. I've actually just put him down for a nominal 5. He's a 9, 8, 2, 15. I don't know how he's going to fare tomorrow, so I'll put him down as a 5, which I think is a fair forecast. So that gives him an average of 8, and that may increase. Now he is definitely, I think, in contention at home to Bournemouth. And then we've got Saka. And that is Chelsea away, so not an option. He's averaging 7 at the moment. I'm not too sure will I ever captain Saka, though. Saka, Saka's not a usual hauler. He's not. He's not a hauler. He did get one, I think, for 3-4 weeks ago, 12 or 13. But he tends to be a sort of steady Eddie, 7, 6, 7, 8. The odd blank here and there, but obviously, really good value. He's going to be up there in the top 2 or 3 midfielders. So right here and now, I don't know who I'm going to captain. It's going to be between Salah and Mbemo, I think. Let's see how the Mbemo goes tomorrow. Wizard and Cunha, they're averaging about 7 points over the last 5 played matches. Wizard could be an option. I look at that Cunha at home to Southampton. He should have had so much more in his match this week. He just got the assist. But if one of his strike partners up there, the shooting boots on, Cunha at Baron d'Or, he could have had 2 or 3. Ooh, that's an interest. That would be a very tasty differential if he came in against Southampton. Although I do think Southampton has improved a wee bit. Who would have thought a few weeks ago that I'd have a double Wolves and going into a match full of hope that they were going to get me a haul? Anyway, strange times. That is FPL. Anyway, thank you very much for anyone that does actually. It's a little bit rambling, but I wanted to cover quite a bit in there. May do a quick update video later in the week. So yeah, here comes game week 11 to 15, aiming for a top 500k finish. No hits. Be aggressive in targeting differentials, and try and get to if I could get somewhere close to that top 500k by the end of 15, I would be a very, very happy boy indeed. Anyway, thank you very much. Anyone that did tune in, have fun, play your own game, and above all else, don't panic.